JD Vance, President Trump's running mate, clapped back at Tim Walz and Kamala Harris's choice to choose him as her running mate.
This is a guy who's proposed shipping more manufacturing jobs to China, who wants to make the American people more reliant on garbage energy instead of good American energy, and has proposed defunding the police just as Kamala Harris does. I think it's interesting, actually. They make an interesting tag team because, of course, Tim Walz allowed rioters to burn down Minneapolis in the summer of 2020, and then the few who got caught, Kamala Harris helped bail them out of jail. So it is more instructive for what it says about Kamala Harris, that she doesn't care about the border, she doesn't care about crime, she doesn't care about American energy, and most importantly, she doesn't care about the Americans who have been made to suffer under those policies.
That is a great line of attack. Yeah, well, Tim Walz let the rioters run free to burn down the main city in his state. And then the few that did get caught, Kamala Harris bailed them out, which is true. Kamala Harris raised money specifically to bail out the rioters in Tim Walz's state, the handful who were actually arrested. That paints a picture. You know, I posted yesterday on social media one of the famous images from the BLM riots of Minneapolis, you know, flames, a building totally on fire, and one of the rioters there with his hands in the air. It looks like a scene out of hell. And then just above that, right where he would be holding something up, it's the Harris Walz sign. That's it. That really paints a picture for you. JD's words paint a picture for you of what America looks like under Harris Walz. It looks like Minneapolis burning over race riots. Walz, in particular, is really, really bad on crime. Walz, not so long ago, just 3 years ago, was asked, after his complete failure during George Floyd, after he allowed the main city and his state to be burnt down, he was asked about law and order, about police issues. And here's how he describes the police.
I think a lot of Minnesotans, Lawrence, and the country, this sense of dread that you've been feeling, this sense of we can't have occupying, large numbers of police on our streets all the time. That's the feeling that black parents have when they send their kids to soccer practice. And I think maybe it's starting to dawn on some folks that unless this gets taken up now, we're going to be right back here again.
This guy's state gets burnt down by Black Lives Matter rioters. And his first reaction is, we don't want to have too many cops out there. Oh, no. The real problem is not the BLM left-wing rioters murdering and burning things and looting. And no. The real problem is there might have been a few too many cops. They're an occupying force. What does that mean? An occupying force. An occupying force is a hostile and illegitimate police power. So what he's saying here is that the police, prosecutors, the whole system of law and order is illegitimate. Conservatives have run for many decades now on how soft the Democrats are on crime. George H.W. Bush, running about on Willie Horton, Mike Dukakis, the Democrat candidate. When he was governor, he let this one criminal out of prison briefly, and he went on to commit another crime. What Tim Walz is talking about here is a whole other level. He's saying the police are illegitimate. The law, American law, the American government, if you don't need to make many leaps of logic here. You just follow Tim Walz's premises to their logical conclusions. He's saying it's all illegitimate. And so he gives preferential treatment to the rioters over the police. This really undermines something that Kamala has been pushing, which is the Kamala campaign wants to make it seem as though she is Kamala the cop. She's going to get tough on crime. This is the cop versus the criminal. Donald Trump is a criminal because my administration prosecuted our political rival because we thought that he would beat us at the ballot box. So he's a criminal. This is the kind of stuff that, Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan dictator, is getting up to. This is what every tin pot dictator gets up to. But I'm the cop and he's the criminal. Well, Tim Walz says that the cops are illegitimate. Tim Walz's daughter during the BLM riots, coordinated with the rioters to let them know when the National Guard would be deployed and when they would be more likely to be arrested. I never like to bring in the candidates' families, so I'm not saying anything else about the daughter, who's now 23 years old. I'm just pointing this out. This is a major political issue. On May 20th, 2020, as Minneapolis was burning, Tim Walz's daughter reposted and responded to an X account urging protesters to get out now because the National Guard and SWAT were allegedly on their way. So this some random X account says, hey guys, if you're burning down Minneapolis right now, get out because the National Guard are coming, you might get arrested. She responds and says, no, the National Guard will not be present tonight. This is the daughter of the governor. Wonder where she found out the National Guard would not be present tonight. Quote, there's a lot of misinformation that is further spreading fear and chaos at the scene of the protests. The Guard cannot be sent in within minutes. It takes time for them to deploy because they come from all over the state. To be clear, the National Guard will not be present tonight. Just because someone asked for something doesn't mean it's happening right away or even happening at all. I don't know about SWAT, but what I do know is the Guard will not be present arresting people tonight. So this is a radical family. This is a radical man. And you might say, well, fathers and daughters, right? Maybe, she just went rogue and she disagreed with her father. No, her father was the one who was on the side of the BLM rioters. Her father was the one calling the cops an occupying force. Her father was the one, presumably, who passed along the information that the National Guard would not be present tonight. And it's not even as though he had some different view of the riots than the daughter did. He was the one cheering the BLMers on. And then, cherry on top of the sundae, Tim Walz comes out and admits that he's a socialist, embraces that label.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. Like good old neighbor Joe Stalin, good old neighbor Mao. Ah, yes. Won't you be my neighbor? Get back in the rice fields. Get back in the rice fields or I'll show you what it means to be a neighbor. It's a wonderful day in the gulag, a wonderful day. One person's socialist is another man's neighbor. Okay, so he's embracing that label. Says, I'm a socialist. He's not the only one. There have been others in recent years. It's really all got kicked off in modern political history with Bernie Sanders, who in the mid-2000s said, no, listen here, I'm a socialist. AOC recently has embraced that label, a handful of others. The one member of the squad went down last night. We'll get to that momentarily too. So what you got here is a guy who is to the left of Bernie Sanders, running as the running mate of a woman who, when she was in the Senate, was also rated to the left of Bernie Sanders. You have the furthest left, I should say, presidential ticket in American history. Mocking the cops, not only mocking the cops, calling them an occupying force, discrediting the entire American system of law and justice, and now embracing the label socialist. That was a great clip. Hold up, ring the bell, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We will see you next time.